please turn to Job chapter 3. Job chapter 3. And this morning, the key doctrine of our church, which is our 9th doctrine on our website, is that life begins at conception. So you're turning there to Job chapter 3. While you're turning there, I'll just read to you from Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4. It says there, "Then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee to be a prophet unto the nations." So we can see there that God says that he formed Jeremiah in the belly. So what did God form? Did he just form a clump of cells? Did he just form a fetus? Well, what does the Bible say that he formed? Let's see what happened at conception, at the very beginning. And when we're going to look at Job now, and remember, God said about Job that Job spoke that which was right, according to the Lord. So we can take what Job says here as being truthful. Verse 1. And this is when Job's really down in the dumps. He's getting persecuted by the devil, and bad things are happening, so he's really depressed. And this is why he's speaking the way he does. And verse 1 says there, "After this opened Job his mouth, and cursed his day," meaning the day that he was born. "And Job spake and said, Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, There is a man-child conceived." So we can see there, when Job was conceived in the womb of his mother, it was a man-child. So straight away from conception, it's a man-child. It's a child. It's not anything else. It's not like a different form of life to a human life. It's not something that's not a child. It's a child, a man-child. So we can see there from conception, it's a man-child. It's a normal human like we are today. God considers at conception, that moment, it's a human. It's a child, man-child. And just jump down to verse 11, the same chapter there of Job, chapter 3, and we'll keep reading. "Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Why did the knees prevent me, or why the breasts that I should suck?" So we can see Job's really struggling. He's really down in the dumps here. "For now should I have lain still and been quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest with kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves, or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver." Have a look here in verse 16. "Or as a hidden untimely birth I had not been, as infants which never saw light." So now Job is saying in the womb it's an infant. So he said it's a man-child, and he's also saying it's an infant. So we can see in the womb, the life in the womb, it's a child, it's an infant. Now what did Jesus say about this? So have a look at John 16 verse 21, if you can turn there please. Let's see what Jesus said about life in the womb. John 16 and verse 21. It says there, "A woman, when she is in travail, have sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembereth no more the anguish for joy that a man is born into the world." So we can see here Jesus is talking about a woman being delivered of the child. So if you're delivered of something, it means you've had something. So this woman, she's had a child inside her belly, and now she's been delivered of that child. So Jesus refers to the life in the womb, the baby in the womb, as a child. So far we've seen a man-child, an infant, and a child. So we're seeing there that life begins at conception, and it's a child. It's a normal person, just like you and I are. And because God considers the life in the womb to be a child, then it becomes a wicked sin if you try and do anything to end that life. It is murder. The sixth commandment is from Exodus 20 verse 13. So "Thou shalt not kill." So if you're killing that child in your womb, that's murder. That's breaking the sixth commandment. And we should not take any course of action that's going to cause a child in the womb to die, because that's a wicked sin. So even the morning after pill is causing that man-child to die. Or if you take certain contraceptions, I'm not an expert on this, that can cause a man-child, an infant, to die. And it's a wicked sin, and we don't want to be doing that. Turn, please, to Psalm 139. Psalm 139. And we looked at how God is the one that formed Jeremiah in the womb. And I want to look at that in a bit more detail, how God is the one that individually forms every single baby in the womb, every single child in the womb. It doesn't come down to chance or some automatic process. God's involved with every single pregnancy, every single child in the womb. He has made that person specific and as an individual. So while you're turning there to Psalm 139, I'm just going to read to you again from Job, but chapter 31, and from verse 13, it says there, "If I did despise the cause of my manservant or of my maidservant, which they contended with, when they contended with me, what then shall I do when God rises up? And when he visiteth, what shall I answer him? Did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb?" So again, Job's saying, give an example, if I contend with this person, or this person comes to me for help and I fight with that person, well, what am I going to do when God calls me to account? Because God formed me in the womb, and he also formed that person and fashioned that person. So God fashions every person individually. And you're there in Psalm 139. Please have a look at verse 13. This is a very famous and popular psalm, and these verses here are like very meaningful. Verse 13 there, Psalm 139, says, "For thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvellous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. My substance was not hid from thee, when I was made in secret and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. And in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them." So that's just a fantastic psalm which talks about how God just makes every single child in the womb special and unique and individually, and he's made you exactly how he wanted to make you. You're not just down to some chance or some random process. God made you specific. So we can all just be thankful to God that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And we're not just some random thing which has come from evolution. That's just a wicked philosophy, a wicked sin. But God's made you to be unique and just to be special. And he's fashioned you with a specific plan. We read about Jeremiah, that God's ordained Jeremiah to be a prophet. And it says here that there's a book that God's written all our members in. All the days that we're going to have in life, God's put them in a book already. And in Jeremiah's book, it was that he would be a prophet. And God's written down all the days of every single person that's ever been in the womb, has ever started as a child in the womb. God has a book for that person. And it's comforting for me with the journey me and Erin have been on, that sometimes God's pleased that child will serve him in heaven and not on earth. And that's upsetting for our mums and dads, but we know that for that child, that's something very special, that they're never going to know sin, they're never going to break any of God's commandments, but they're going to serve God in heaven. And I personally believe that in the millennium, they can then serve God on the earth, and we can have a relationship with them then on the earth. And my last point, 1 minute, is that all babies in the womb are God's. God is their Lord in a very special way because they haven't broken any of his commandments. If you can turn to Galatians chapter 1, let me read to you about Jesus in the womb. So you're turning to Galatians chapter 1, let me read to you from Psalm 22, talking about Jesus in the womb, verse 9. "But thou art he that took me out of the womb, thou didst make me hope when I was upon my mother's breast. I was cast upon thee from the womb, thou art my God from my mother's womb." So this is true of Jesus, of course, but also of every child in the womb, because they haven't broken God's commandments. They're without sin. So God, in a special, unique way, is their God. It belongs to God, and God does what's pleasing to him regarding that child. And Galatians chapter 1, last verse 15, 16, but when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb, this is Paul talking, and called me by his grace to reveal his Son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen, immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood. So Paul said it pleased God that he will be separated from his mother's womb and then to serve God as the apostle that he was. And every single person that is separated from the womb in this life, it's the intent that they would serve God in the way that God's called them, and he's written that down in their book. And we'll leave it there.